Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the William Bonney podcast. Today's going to be as much a therapy session for me as it is a podcast for you guys. William Bonney is angry. I struggle with anger issues. I have done for a while. I don't know what the root of it is. It could be a number of things. I lost my dad when I was 9. It's difficult to cope with when at any age, but you end up a little bit emotionally stunted as a kid because you just don't know how to deal with your emotions. You know, as a 9-year-old, I remember crying my eyes out when my dad died, and then sort of a couple of hours later, I was asking my mum if I can go and play computer games, and just kind of, it was almost as if I'd snapped out of it and I was just ready to go on with my day. But as a 9-year-old, you're not emotionally mature. You don't grieve in the same way. You don't feel emotion in the same way. So, yeah, it's a bit weird. So, who knows what my anger problems are? I always put it down to be just being emotionally immature, even as an adult. I put a lot of my anger issues down to obviously being in Portland as well, because in Portland prison, it taught me to be explosive, to kick off, to go after people straight away. You very rarely let things lie. Once I stopped getting walked over, then I became quick-tempered and very violent, and I've had to deal with those problems the rest of my life. Now, the reason I'm talking about this today is because somebody came to my house last night. Somebody was stood outside my house at 10 to 3 in the morning, shouting my name. I woke up with my wife pushing me, nudging me, trying to wake me up, saying, "I think there's someone outside shouting your name." And it's ridiculous because nobody comes to me anymore. All the chaos I caused in the old days, and all the trouble and heartache and all the enemies I've had. We're talking at least 15 years since I've committed any sort of crime. Been in prison, robbed anyone, pissed anyone off. I haven't even had a fight in so long, and so there's a very little chance of it being any enemies of mine stood outside my house. So why was someone stood outside my house shouting my name at 10 to 2 in the morning? At 10 to 3 in the morning, sorry. I couldn't understand it. They sounded drunk. They sounded northern. I couldn't understand it. So I got up, I crept out of my bed, and I tried to look through the curtains without sort of disturbing them too much. We got net curtains, and we got another curtain behind that. So I opened the curtain a little bit and just tried to peer through, and I could just about see, because the house we live at, there isn't a front garden or anything. It's just as soon as you open the front door, you're on a road. We're in a terrace of houses, so it's a long row of houses. You can't get around the back or anything without walking kind of 200 meters either way to go round the whole block. So I'm looking out through the net curtains, and I can see someone sat on a wall, looking straight back at me, shouting my name again. "William! William!" It's freaking me the fuck out. I've just woke up. I'm naked. Naked, vulnerable. My wife's in the bed behind me, scared. And there's a drunk guy outside my house shouting my name. And in case there's any confusion, he starts shouting my surname as well. "William Bonney! William!" I think, what the fucking hell's going on? So we sit there, I get my shit together, I get my clothes on. I think about going downstairs and getting a knife and confronting the person. They're drunk. I could probably take them without a weapon. But there's always that unknown. There's always that feeling of, am I going to be walking out there? Are they going to have a weapon? Knuckle dusters, hammer, knife, anything. You could be walking into a trap. There could be several other guys waiting against the house. All these things are running through my mind. What would you do? It's scary stuff, man. But once the fear had died down in me and the anxiousness and the anticipation, then came the anger. Then came the old me. I was stood at the top of the stairs and I was just starting to channel everything. I was starting to channel that fear into aggression. And I was starting to think, I'm just going to go out the back door. Go out the back door, walk round the buildings and go and catch this guy from the side and just beat the fuck out of him. But that would escalate the situation. If they did have a weapon, I could get stabbed. I could get killed. But why is this person outside my house? One of the other front windows at my house is a bit of a better view. So I went to the other window and I looked out again. And my wife was looking out the bedroom window and I was looking out the spare bedroom window. I still couldn't quite see who it was. They'd moved around a little bit. And my wife mentioned she recognises the person. And it's my older brother. Now, bearing in mind, I haven't had much to do with my older brother. He's still quite active in crime. He's 10 years older than me. He's one of the reasons I got into crime without even really realising it. I'd looked up to him. I've talked about this before, that my crime sprees really kicked up and got started. I started drug dealing and, my crimes really ramped up once he came out of prison when I was about 15. He came to live with us. He'd just got out of a parole sentence. He'd done a 4 or 5 years, something like that. And he came to live with us for a little bit. And within weeks, he was making hundreds, if not thousands of pounds, spending all day in the gym, playing computer games all day, drinking, taking drugs. To a 15-year-old, he was living the dream. He was Santa Claus to me. But yeah, he just continued doing that. My brother's very violent. And he's just stayed a violent criminal ever since. He's never really learned from any of his lessons. He's been in and out of prison all his life. He's out now. He's skinny. He's not weight training. He's about 50. He's just a frail, pathetic man. And now he's stood outside my house shouting my name. Now, when I moved, the reason I didn't tell him where I lived is because he used to come round drunk, drugged up, in unpredictable moods. Normally he would be coming round after he'd just been looking for someone and he'd be still pissed off and he'd come and sit in ours and he'd be still aggro and he'd be unpredictable to be around. And I've moved on with my life now. I'm not the same person I used to be. I'm a family man, not businessman, but I work for a living, 9 to 5, even longer. And he's still trying to drag me back. So I decide not to get out there and confront him, but to just sit and see how it plays out. He doesn't know where I live. We moved house and I never told him where we actually moved to. But obviously my mum or someone else, or, he may have even seen me, walk into a house along this road, but he didn't seem to know exactly where I lived because he was just kind of shouting. Even though he was sat directly outside the house, it could have just been a fluke. He could have known we lived here roughly, but he doesn't know which door it was. And he's still sat outside shouting my name, shouting other things, shouting that he's going to wake the whole street up until I come out. So I still just keep lurking, watching, keeping an eye on the situation and just being reactionary rather than confrontational. Just see how it plays out. Everything in me, now that I knew it was him, I can see him drunk and frail outside. In his heyday, I would never have even thought about taking him on. He was a savage, a psychopath, animal of a fighter. He always likes knuckle dusters as well. He likes to put the odds in his favour a little bit, carrying knuckle dusters. I remember a couple of years ago, I was in a pub with my cousin and her fellow and my wife. We were just having a nice drink, nice evening, and I walked through to another area to go to the toilet, and my brother's there, drunk, being quite aggressive with the staff. He's slobbed out on one of the chairs, and the staff are being as pleasant as they can to him because they know who he is and what he's capable of. So they're being as nice as they can to him whilst also wanting him to get the fuck out, basically. Once he sees me, because I could see he was in a bit of a bad way, so I sort of went over to him and, and tried to help him out a little bit. And he was ranting about his friend from the gym who got him beaten up. He said that this guy from the gym had sent 2 people round to come and stamp all over his head while he was in bed. And if it wasn't for his girlfriend at the time, they probably would have killed him, because his girlfriend come running through and got these lads out. So now he wanted to go and deal with this guy from the gym, which meant that we had to go over there. Now, I don't know about you, but walking into a gym full of meatheads when this guy, runs the gym isn't a very smart idea. But at that point, I'm dumb. My brother needs help. So I'm like, fuck it, let's go. Me and you, let's go over there now and we'll go and sort this out. My brother picked up a knife to go over there with, and we walked over to the gym. And this is, again, my blindness, it's anger blindness, whatever you want to call it, that kind of seeing red. It's just tunnel vision. I forget about everything else. I forget that my cousin and her husband and my wife are all sat on the other side, because my brother's here and he needs help, so I'm down. So we walk out the pub, we go across the car park, we go over to the gym. As soon as we get to the gym, you have to go upstairs to get to the first floor where the gym is. He must have already seen us coming, because the owner of the gym stood at the top of the stairs waiting, and he's like, "Get the fuck out of my gym." And my brother just keeps going upstairs, and they walk, and they obviously have a bit of a talk. And these guys have been best friends for a long time. The guy from the gym has helped out my brother while he was in prison. He sent him money when no one else gave a fuck about him and everything. And and now my brother's going around there trying to fight him, and he's got a knife on him, so he's possibly looking to stab him. A few other members of the gym come running over to kind of like get in between us, and kind of, it's a bit of an argy-bargy, a few bit of, pushes and that. And my brother and the gym owner end up rolling around on the floor a little bit. It's all fisticuffs. It's nothing serious. My brother's drunk. He's not that capable. And the guy from the gym just kind of keeps him off him. And then, like I say, all these other meatheads get involved, and there's a bit of pushing and shoving, but nothing serious. We walk out. He throws the knife into some bushes, and he's in such a state that I basically want to get rid of him now. So I just steered him back towards another pub where, he's well known and safe as it was. So I just steered him through the door of that pub, and then went back across the road to the pub I was in and tried to get on with my evening. But when those two worlds collide, and it's not so easy to just get on with your night and your evening. So I'm on edge, the adrenaline flowing, my family can see there's something wrong. The staff at the pub we're in are sort of running around saying, they want us out and everything. It's awful. All because my world has collided with his old world. My new world is still colliding with his old world that he can't get out of. So this is the kind of mentality he has sometimes. I don't know why last night he had a bee in his bonnet about me. It could have been because I haven't seen him in years. It could have been because I, kicked my mum out a few months ago. Actually, it was about a year ago. I kicked my mum out because of the upbringing we had. I tried to have a conversation with her about how crappy it was, and how she basically checked out as a parent when we were kids, and never really did anything for us as a parent. Who knows why he was in a mood with me last night. But like I say, once the fear of the unknown turned to anger because I knew who it was, I became a very different person, and suddenly I'm defending my property, and I'm a wife. I was shaking with anger, stood at the top of the stairs with my fists clenched, just waiting, listening. He's still outside shouting. I went back over to the window again and look out. Again, it's all dark in the house, so he can't see, we've got net curtains and things, he can't see me looking. He started to move around now. He stopped shouting and he went into the car park, and he started kicking cars, like with his back to him, just booting like a, donkey kick sort of thing, booting a van, and then he sort of walked across and started booting another car. I can only imagine it's either frustration or it's he's trying to get the alarms to go off so that it's making more noise and waking me up. At this time, my wife's still in the bedroom. She's sort of, lurking, trying to stay sort of calm, but obviously got a nutcase outside the house. Once I realised it was my brother, I messaged him. Just saying, what the fuck are you doing? I tried to make it sound like he was outside the wrong house, so I sent him a message saying, the people who live at my old house have said there's a drunk bum outside the house, shouting and kicking cars. Is this you? I know that's inflammatory. The message is obviously designed to be inflammatory, so that when he does read it, he knows I'm fucked off with him. I'm trying to stay reactionary though. I'm not trying to be confrontational, but the anger in me makes me confrontational. I love confrontation. It's where I'm comfortable. I don't take shit very well without being confrontational. I'm not, as much as I do well with these podcasts, I'm not great with words. I'm not one of those, like the Scousers I used to be in prison with were absolutely fantastic at ripping people apart with their wit. And, they're like Paddy the Baddy, every one of them. They're so funny, so witty. And they'll just rip you apart with a few lines and a few words. But I'm not like that. I've always been a more silent and violent kind of guy. I'm not great with words, but I'm pretty good with my fists, I promise you. So today, winding forward, he eventually walked off. After about 15 minutes, 20 minutes of shouting and hollering and kicking cars and things, he eventually stumbled off. I'm watching him through the window stumble off. You could see he was drunk and he's stumbling and he can't walk properly. If I had gone out there, it would have been an easy fight. It wouldn't have been difficult. And I was proud of myself. I'd weathered the storm. My neighbours might be a bit pissed off with me, but I've weathered the storm and, no one's hurt. No one's going back to prison. I can carry on with my day and go back to work. I didn't get any sleep the rest of the night, from 3 a.m. through till, 5:30 when I have to get up for work. There was every little noise outside was, making me meerkat and just look. And today, obviously, it was less fear, more anger. Angry that, he thought that he could do this. I don't know why he's coming around. Like I say, I don't know what problem he's got with me. And I'm not the kind of guy that just slips into the background and forgets about it all. So, as soon as I saw he was back online again, because obviously you can see the little light in the corner of the messaging thing when they're online. And I could see he was back online again about sort of 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. And my thumb was hovering above the call button. I played through what I was going to say in my mind. It was going to be something like, have we got a problem? Do we need to meet up? Don't be coming shouting outside houses like a little bitch. Let's sort this out like men. No weapons, just men. He was always someone I looked up to. The violence, the drug dealing, all of it. And now he's just a pathetic man. And he's dragging me back down with him. My thumb hovered above the call button. I imagined more conversations. Do I just ring him and be straight away just like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? You used to be somebody. Now fucking look at you. All these conversations, again, they're inflammatory, they're confrontational. Once you start, because he's not the type of person that's going to take that phone call and just back down and go, oh yeah, no, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have been outside your house. He probably doesn't even remember. He was that fuck-faced. Unless he has a real problem with me. He probably doesn't even remember being outside my house. The message he got from me probably doesn't even make any sense. He might have known he was in my town. But does he remember being outside my house? Who knows? But I didn't do anything. I just left it. I'm here trying to just do this reactionary rather than confrontationally. And it's taken years for me to get to this spot. Because the old me would have always just seen that as a slap in the face. So the old me, the Portland me, would have been, in my mindset, it's ingrained in there. Just, that's a slap in the face and everyone's seen it. You've got to react. Even if it's just saving face in front of my wife, because, The old me will be thinking, she thinks you're weak now. You didn't do anything. You didn't protect her. You're weak. You're vulnerable. He's walked over you. He's taken the piss. But the new me just sees him for the pathetic man that he is. And the fact that I'm not sat in a police cell tonight, I'm not sat in a court cell today, and I didn't get shipped out to Exeter, just shows how far I've come. Because I'd feel pretty dumb, sat in Exeter prison tonight, thinking that, well, at least I protected my wife. At least I saved face. Losing my job, losing everything I've worked for, possibly losing my marriage further down the line, who knows? All because this loser tried to drag me back down. So I feel like I'm really moving on with these anger issues. I've talked about it before, I snap really easily. I have a real problem with anger. I like to be explosive, I like to get it out quick, and I like to fucking get my point across. But it's been so detrimental to me through jobs, through life, through losing friends, everything. People don't want to be around that kind of confrontational, aggressive, angry person. It suited me, When you're that kind of person, you're like that junkyard dog who bites and snarls and growls at everyone who goes near him. And it does its job of keeping everyone away from you. But that's not what life is about. Life isn't about being on your own and angry and aggressive. And it's taken me years to learn this. And it's taken me years to be the person who reacts rather than confrontates. Confrontates? I think it's a word. It is a word. We'll work on it. So I wanted to talk today about this. I needed to get it off my chest. I needed to just, ramble. And I didn't know what kind of video to make tonight. I've got a video for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna talk about absent fathers and dads missing, because there's some really interesting stats and there's some really interesting information about absent fathers and crime rates and how a lot of the crime is committed by people who grew up in fatherless homes. So that's going to be a really interesting podcast that we'll do tomorrow. But today I just needed to talk about anger and how far I've come and how last night was a test. And you know what? I think we passed. There may still be a time, obviously that text message is still over there, it's still sat on his phone. He may still sit there and think, do you know what? I'm going to go after this motherfucker. He may be sat outside my house tonight, but I promise you, he won't be doing it for long. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. I read and I try and reply to every one of your comments. Obviously, come and follow me on Instagram, William Bonney 838. I'm not as angry as I sound. For those of you who like my voice, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the comments. It's been, it's a real boost sitting here just listening to you guys tell me that you're enjoying this and you like it. So you're the reason I do it. Otherwise, I'm just sat in a room talking to myself. Thank you very much for listening. I will continue to do this as you want me to. 2 more videos, Saturday, Sunday, and then we'll start going to something like 3 videos a week. And we'll get back on it, and I'll write this book, get the audio book underway, and we'll have it all out very soon. All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy. See you tomorrow.